Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Is it permitted to watch a match where participants are not properly covered? This is a question that I actually see quite frequently being posed, and whether it is in the form of can we read a story or can we watch something, etc. But it's good that believers are asking the questions that really apply to them in their daily lives. So let's take it one step at a time. Playing a match, right? As long as the match in question does not involve actions that are clearly unlawful, then technically playing that match would be permissible. This is provided that it is not involving any haram actions and it does not cause you to neglect your duties. Now, this is whether it is soccer or rugby or cricket, etc. If there is nothing unlawful in the game directly involved, and it is not distracting you from your obligatory duty, then technically it is permissible. See that too within the framework of what I just said a moment ago. As for the ruling on consuming various forms of media content, the ruling is generally always going to follow the same guidelines. It depends on the nature of the contents. And when we speak about the nature of the contents, we are speaking specifically about the intended material, not peripheral things that are not central. So for example, if there's a match and there happens to be somebody in the stadium doing something haram, we are not speaking about that type of content. That's not central. So with all that said, suppose no impermissible elements such as lewd behavior, exposed nakedness, aura, are involved, then in that case, watching within reasonable limits of sacred law is lawful. However, if there are unlawful elements, right, the core of what you are watching has unlawful elements therein, then it becomes unlawful to consume that, regardless of whether it is, just a match or just this type of sport, etc. One has to always be within the boundaries of Allah's law. As for the ruling pertaining to games, right, in the Shafi'i school, other than games involving prize money, every game played by two or more people that relies on luck, on fortune, on conjecture, on guessing, whether money is stipulated or not, every game such as that is unlawful, and every game besides that is permissible, as long as there's no money involved. But this is just to sort of give us an understanding of the nature of games, because people might have an issue related to games. Now we take it a step further and we ask about, what about watching games, watching sports? We're not talking about playing the sport, we are speaking about watching the sport. Now there's no specific text within the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that specifically prohibits watching sports matches. In fact, you may argue that some demonstration that Sayyidina Rasulullah ﷺ facilitated for Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha to observe spear or sword playing of the like, that may be of some sort of an indication that you can watch, a demonstration of the sort. However, still the answer remains it must be within the confines of the Sharia. Nothing in it must be against Allah's law. It would be considered unlawful if the match includes prohibited actions, such as watching immodestly dressed players, or if it leads to neglecting religious obligations. And if you spend an unreasonable amount of time in these lawful practices, it could lead to sinful behavior. Now, when you look at the opposite gender, it is unlawful to look at the opposite gender with lust, whether they are properly clothed or not, including the wearing of hijab. So, for example, a man sees a woman and he is looking at a woman who's properly clothed, but he feels attracted to her. He finds her attractive, he finds her beautiful. He would have to look away, even though she's properly clothed. The same thing applies to a woman if a man sees a woman and she's not properly clothed. And there's no difference of opinion about this. In Islam, you can't look at, in the Shafi'i school, you can't look at even a spoon, with desire. And I'm exaggerating here, but the point being, it's looking with desire that is the issue. So it is permissible to look at the face or hands of the opposite sex, men with women, of course, without lust. One may not actively look at uncovered parts of the nakedness or the aura of another person actively. But if you unintentionally see something in your peripheral vision that happens to be aura, like a woman not wearing a scarf, which we see all the time on social media, on TVs, etc., will we be held accountable for seeing aura, even though we didn't intend to look at that aura? As long as we didn't intend to look at it, we didn't look at it with desire, and we didn't focus on looking at this person's aura. In fact, we were not looking at that at all. We just happened to be there when it was exposed. Then this is not going to be the same as intentionally looking at somebody uncovered. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So that is essentially how we should navigate these spaces. But I always add this rider that look, the more you can avoid questionable situations like watching a sports match, which for the most part, in essence, is permissible, but then you have these peripheral things that cause it to be problematic. People not being covered properly, perhaps people engaging in the consumption of khamr, etc., and ads playing in between. Understand that all of this has an impact on one's faith. And if there's, a sin that takes place in between, you're witnessing a sin on this side, you're listening to a sin on that side, you're engaging in a sin here, all of that is going to add up. And unfortunately, that is going to leave us in a very bad space spiritually. So my advice in relation to sports and these, engagements for the sake of entertainment is to really be a conscious Muslim as you approach these things, and to approach it with the strongest sense of taqwa that you can. And in that, inshallah, we will try to be balanced, in that we are doing what we must, we are staying away from what is haram, but at the same time, we're trying to find lawful engagement, lawful forms of entertainment, of release. And in this way, we are trying to save ourselves from that which is unlawful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.